Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss the other techniques of separating the components of a mixture. In the last class we have discussed three methods or techniques for the separation of a mixture or separating the components of a mixture. Today we are going to learn some more techniques to separate out the different components of a mixture. So let us begin. So the first method is sublimation. Now we have come across this term called sublimation in chapter 1. So let us recapitulate what is sublimation. Now there are some solids which have a tendency to sublime on heating. That is, they convert directly from solid to gaseous or vapor phase on heating without passing through the liquid phase. So normally what happens when we heat a solid, it generally converts to liquid, and again if we continue heating it will convert to gas or vapor. But the sublime substances or the substances which show this sublimation process, they do not convert to liquid. Instead they convert directly to gas or vapor. Clear? Now, a mixture which contains any such solids means any such solid substance which show this sublimation process along with any other normal solid, then it can be separated out through this sublimation process. Say for example, some sublime substances are camphor, ammonium chloride, naphthalene, iodine, anthracene. So some of the substances are well known to us because we are using it in our day-to-day life. Say for example, camphor, naphthalene. All these things are easily available in everyone's house. So these things are sublime in nature. You may observe it that the naphthalene ball, after we keep it for few days in the open, then it will become vanish. So what did exactly happen there is that it has got converted from the solid state to the gaseous or the vapor state. Clear? Hence, sublimation is used to separate such mixtures that contain a sublimable volatile component from a non-sublimable impurity. For example, a mixture of common salt and ammonium chloride can be separated out by this sublimation process. So what actually happens is that these sublime substances, they are volatile in nature. That means they have very low boiling points. So they get easily vaporized on application of heat. But the non-sublimable substances, they remain as it is. Even if you heat it, they don't get vaporized that quickly, just like the sublime substances. So through this process of sublimation, we can easily separate out such volatile and non-volatile components that is present in that mixture. So let us now see one experiment of sublimation. So this is an experiment of separating ammonium chloride and common salt. So ammonium chloride is also a kind of a salt, but it is not like the common salt that we take in our everyday use. Why? Because ammonium chloride is a sublimable substance. That means it shows sublimation. That means the boiling point of ammonium chloride is less. It can easily vaporized if we apply heat. But unlike the common salt, which will not get vaporized that easily. So in this experiment, as you can see on the screen, that we have taken in a china dish a mixture of ammonium chloride and salt, and then we have put an inverted funnel, just like a lid. While cooking, we cover the food with the lid. Similarly here, we have covered the china dish containing the mixture of ammonium chloride and salt with the inverted funnel, and then at the opening of the funnel we have put a cotton plug. Why you have put a cotton plug? Because if you don't put a cotton plug, the vapors after heating will get vaporized into the atmosphere. So we don't need that. We need to collect the residue, or we need to collect the components of the mixture. So as a result, we have put the cotton plug there. Now what happens actually in this experiment is that as soon as we start heating, then after the minimum temperature is reached, that is the temperature at which ammonium chloride vaporizes, as ammonium chloride is a volatile substance, so it will get quickly vaporized, and as a result, what will happen after vaporizing, what will be left on the china dish is our common salt. But we need to collect this vapors of ammonium chloride. We need to separate out ammonium chloride and salt. So what actually happens is here, as soon as the vapors of ammonium chloride, or you can say as soon as ammonium chloride starts this sublimation or starts to sublime, then the vapors goes up. As we know that the vapors will go up, and as you can see, this region, the above region of this inverted funnel, it is cold. The temperature is less as compared to the temperature at the bottom here near the china dish. So here what will happen, it will cool down and these vapors of ammonium chloride will solidify. So here on the walls of the inverted funnel we can see that the ammonium chloride has got solidified. Clear? So in this way, after we turn off the burner, we can collect out the common salt on the china dish and the solidified ammonium chloride on the walls of the inverted funnel. So in this way we can separate out ammonium chloride and common salt. So here the sublimation process has been taken place, as ammonium chloride is a volatile substance and common salt is a non-volatile substance. So in that way, by the application of heat, we can sublime the volatile substance, leaving behind the non-volatile substance. Clear? Now let's move on to the next process. The next method is chromatography. Now let us first discuss what is this chromatography before going into the experiment. So the term chromatography is a Greek word, came from a Greek word chroma, which means color. So this technique was first used for the separation of color. So here in this process, we will separate out the different colors. So let us see. Chromatography is a technique used for the separation of those solutes that dissolve in the same solvent. Now say for example, there are different kinds of solutes mixed in a particular solvent. Say 2 or 3 different kinds of solutes that are mixed in a solvent. So we can separate out the solvent and the solute, but how will you separate out the different solutes that are present in that solvent? So then this chromatography process is very useful. Now what main principle lies behind this chromatography method is that the separation of different components of a mixture is dependent upon their solubilities in the same solvent. That means the different solutes, they will have different solubilities. Not all of them will be having the same solubility. Some will be more soluble in that solvent, some will be less soluble in that solvent. And based on this principle, we can separate out the different you can say solutes present in that solvent. Say for example, if you have to separate the different dyes present in the ink, we can separate it out through the help of paper chromatography. Now let us see how this is done. So first of all, what we need to do, the ink that we use has water as the solvent and the dye is soluble in it. So ink is nothing but It is a mixture of the dye and water. So altogether it makes the ink. So what we need to do is that we need to take a filter paper. In that filter paper we have to mark a line. After marking it, we have to put a drop of ink on it, on that line. Then we will dip that filter paper in a glass of water up to that mark or up to that level. Then we have to wait for some time, and then we will see that there will be a rising of the water level in the filter paper. So let me show you that figure. So this is what happens. As you can see here, this is a filter paper. It has been fixed with the help of a wood. Then this is the glass. We have filled it up to this level of water. Then there is a mark. As you can see, this is the mark. Now here we have put drops of ink of different colors. Then we will dip it up to this level. Clear? Then we have to wait for some time. We will see that the water will start rising in this filter paper due to the absorption capacity of the filter paper. So the water will rise. It is just like if we dip a handkerchief in the water, you can see that the water will start rising and eventually the whole handkerchief will become wet. Similarly here also, the filter paper, it will soak in the water, and as the water rises, it will separate out the different dyes that is present in that ink. So this is an example of paper chromatography. So in this way we can separate out. As you can see, as the dye will separate out, it will show you the different solutes present in that dye, and depending upon the solubility of the different solutes that are present in the dye, you can see different patterns of colors. So the solute which will have greater solubility will rise at the top, and the solute having the lesser solubility will be at the bottom. So from there we can easily distinguish what colors of dyes were present in that ink. Clear? Now usually a dye is a mixture of two or more colors. Yes, as I said, it is a mixture of at least two or more colors. So this paper chromatography helps us to separate out the different dyes that are present, the different colors that are present in the dye. Clear? Now the colored component that is more soluble in water rises faster, and in this way the color gets separated. Yes, as I said, the component which will have a greater solubility, it will rise at the top, and the component having lesser solubility will be at the bottom. This is the color. Now what are the applications of chromatography? Let us see. To separate color in a dye, yes, that's what we have done just now. We can separate out the color that is present in the dye. Next, to separate pigments from natural color, yes. Now we know that we have a few natural colors. Now to separate out the pigments, means the different components present in that natural color, we can separate it out through this process of chromatography. Next, to separate drugs from blood, yes. Now there is something called dope test. Now some of the athletes, they take drugs. Now to test it, we can use this chromatography method to separate out the drugs from the blood and to test whether the person has taken drugs or not. So that also can be done. So these are the few applications of chromatography. Now let us move on to our next method. The next method is called distillation. Now this is well known. Now we have come across the thing called distilled water. So is that water different from the normal water? Yes, it is, because the process through which that water is processed, it is different than how we get the normal water. So we are going to discuss the distillation process. So why this distillation process is used? Say for example, if you have two liquids which are easily mixable with each other, which get easily mixed with each other, they are called miscible liquids. We have come across immiscible liquids like oil and water. They don't mix with each other. But suppose if the two liquids they easily mix with each other, then how will you separate them? Then this distillation process is very much useful. Now even though the two liquids are miscible, but they will have different boiling points. Clear? So based on their boiling points, we can separate it out. Now there are actually two processes of distillation. This is the normal distillation process. In the we will be discussing further in the other method, that is called the fractional distillation, which will come after this. So stay tuned. Now distillation involves the conversion of a liquid into vapor, followed by condensation of the vapor back to the liquid. Yes. So in this distillation process, what is done is that first we vaporize or convert that liquid into vapor. Clear? And then we again cool it down through the method of condensation. And then we'll get back what? We'll get back the liquid again, the pure liquid. So in this way, we can separate out the two liquids depending upon their difference in their boiling points. Now distillation is used only if the liquids have a difference in the boiling points of more than 25 Kelvin. If there is a difference of 25 Kelvin among the boiling points of the two liquids, two miscible liquids, then we can follow this normal distillation method. Let us see the figure. So this is the setup for the distillation process. So here, say for example, acetone and water. Now both acetone and water, they get mixed up easily. But the boiling point of acetone and the boiling point of water are not the same. They are different. In fact, we can say that acetone has a lower boiling point than water. That means we can say that acetone is a volatile substance. But we cannot separate it out through the method of what is called sublimation, because here it is not in the solid state, it is in the liquid state. So sublimation process we can't use here. So here we have to use this distillation process. So acetone and water, when they are mixed together, what we can do is that here you can see it is placed in a round bottom flux. So when we heat this mixture of acetone and water, what will happen? There is a thermometer here to check the temperature. So as soon as the boiling point of acetone is hit, that means the temperature shows the boiling point of acetone is reached, then it will vaporize. Acetone will vaporize, being a volatile substance. Then it will pass through this tube and reach this portion of the setup. Now here what is happened, there is a water outlet. Hot water is passed through this outlet and cold water is put through here. So what will happen? It will cool down. Okay, sorry, my mistake. Cold water is put in through this inlet and this is the outlet of the water. So there is cold water in this chamber, you can say. So what will happen is that as soon as the vapors will pass through this chamber, due to the presence of cold water, it will condense. So this chamber is also known as water condenser. So it will condense the vapors and it will convert them back to the liquid state. So whatever out product we get will be the liquid acetone. So in this way we can separate out the acetone from the water. Clear? And now you might be thinking, what will happen to the water? Will it keep on boiling or will it also vaporize? No. As I told you that acetone having a less boiling point, since it is a volatile substance, so it will vaporize quickly. And as soon as we collect all the acetone in the beaker, then we can turn off the burner, because whatever will be left in the round bottom flux will be the pure water. Clear? So now moving on to the next, that is fractional distillation. Now why this fractional distillation is used? Why we can't use the distillation method? Now, as I said, if the difference in the boiling point is more than 25 Kelvin, then we can use that what is called normal distillation method. But what if the boiling points are less than 25 Kelvin? Then we cannot use that method. Then we have to go with this fractional distillation method. Also, sometimes there are more than two miscible liquids mixed together, and all of them are having a boiling temperature difference of less than 25 Kelvin. Then what to do? Then we will have to go with this fractional distillation method. So let us begin. Now, to separate a mixture of two or more miscible liquids for which the difference in boiling points is less than 25 Kelvin, fractional distillation process is used. For example, to separate different gases from air, to separate the different petroleum products. Yes, normally in the refinery, for separating out the different petroleum products which are having a boiling point of less than 25 Kelvin, this fractional distillation is generally used. Now, what actually happens in a fractional distillation? Let us see from the figure. So the setup is not much different than normal distillation method. Only thing is that there is this fractionating column. So this is the extra added, we can say, apparatus in this setup. Earlier the thermometer was fixed here at the mouth of the round bottom flux, but here it is now fixed in the fractionating column. Now this fractionating column is filled with glass beads, small glass beads. Now we'll come to that why these glass beads are used. Now here also same method. We have to heat the mixture, it will vaporize, then it will condense, and then we'll get back the liquid, pure liquid form. So let us see. The apparatus is similar to that of the simple distillation, except the fractionating column is fitted in between the distillation flask and the condenser. This is the distillation flask, the round bottom flask, and this is a water condenser, as we have said already. So what actually happens is that in this fractionating column, as I said, it is filled with small glass beads. These glass beads, they provide surface for the vapors to cool and condense repeatedly. So what actually happens in this glass bead is that this lower portion of this fractionating column, the vapors present in this lower portion, it is at a higher temperature than the vapors which are at this upper portion. So as soon as the mixture the gases starts to vaporize, it will reach this glass beads where the temperature is little bit higher compared to this upper portion. So as it passes through the glass beads, the temperature gets reduced actually, and as soon as it reaches this upper portion of the fractionating column, the temperature of the vapor reduces to a much lower level. Then it will pass through the tube, and then water condenser will condense that vapors back to liquid. Now actually why this fractionating column is used, because as I said, there is a boiling point difference is less than 25 Kelvin. So what happens is that if this fractionating column is not used, which is filled with glass beads, then if we directly vaporize it, then what will happen? Say one substance has already vaporized, and as soon as before it condenses back to liquid form, another will start vaporizing. So there will be a mixture here, mixture of different components, okay, of the two. Or you can say as soon as one miscible liquid will start vaporizing, the another also will start vaporizing. So it will create a problem, and whatever out product will get, it will be nothing again, it will be back to the same mixture again. So this fractionating column helps to, you can say, put a barrier to the vapors, or it puts a little bit, it gives a time for one miscible liquid to completely vaporize and then turn back to liquid form. Then another starts vaporizing, and then the same process continues. So this fractionating column is helpful to separate out the mixtures of miscible liquids having a boiling point difference less than 25 Kelvin. So this brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you will have understood these 4 processes of separating out components of a mixture. In the next video, we'll discuss furthermore with some other methods or techniques for separating out the components of a mixture. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.